All right, you are listening to the Hire Fast podcast. On today's episode, I will be talking about how culture and environment leads to employee satisfaction and its importance, how it leads to employee engagement, productivity, and profitability. Also, I'll be sharing some great insights and some stories along the way. You don't want to miss this one, guys. All right, let's go.
The following was recorded in front of a live studio audience at the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe. This is the United Podcast Network.
Welcome to the Hire Fast podcast, a podcast aimed at educating you on hiring the right person for the right job and keeping them. Are you sick of spending precious time and energy hiring and training people just to have them turn around and quit? Then join Alan and his guests on Hire Fast as they teach you how to skillfully motivate and attract rockstar talent. Now here is your host, Alan Daviduk.
Hello, I want to thank you for listening to the Hire Fast podcast. I'm Alan Daviduk, and this podcast is your source for all things attracting, hiring, recruiting, staffing, developing, retaining the avatar employee that I call a rock star. So who is this podcast for? It's for all my restaurant people out there, my owners, my multi-unit managers, my managers, fast casual operators, quick service operators, any retail business owners and teams, and anyone basically that has hourly employees. This podcast is for you. And if you're struggling to retain and protect your core or long-term employees, the people that are doing it from you, and you want to keep them from being stolen or poached by your competitors, and you want to get rid of or eliminate poor performing employees or level them up, this is the podcast for you. So I created the S.M.A.R.T System first and foremost to solve my problems, to liberate myself. Now I want to help you. It's my sole purpose. It's what I've been called to do, to help restaurant and business owners solve these problems so they can win. This is how I learned to fight back against the employees who destroy our business and just move on. And this happened so many times, and it irritated me so much, I had to stop it. So the S.M.A.R.T System is a training and education and software company that is people-driven, purpose-driven, to lead to more profit. And it's my plan to change the world one hire at a time, one person at a time, and one company at a time. The calling that I have is to direct corporations and teach the teams that direct the employees, to educate and level them up and transform the behaviors and teach the skills needed so employees become active thinkers and problem solvers. And this way, business owners can increase their sales and their profit so they can in turn help more people. So the S.M.A.R.T System is an acronym. And when I created it, it was my roadmap that I ultimately used to break out of the prison that my family's business had become. And it stands for skillfully motivate and attract rockstar talent. It's how I stopped myself back in the bad days of dying slowly every day and the pressure of not having the right employees. So it's the steps that I took to achieve what I call the secret sauce, which is engagement and employee retention. And so what we did the last few episodes is we talked about the first step in the framework, which was skillfully. And it had 3 steps. The first step was goals, and the second step was measures. Now, one of the things I said in the last episodes is that that's boring stuff, right? It's not super sexy stuff to talk about, but it's very important and vital, and it's tactical to getting the things that you want and reaching your financial goals. So the next thing we talked about was the compensation plan. Now, when we took the S in the S.M.A.R.T System and we put it all together, this beautiful product came out of it. It's called the Hire Fast Machine. And when I invented the Hire Fast Machine, the reason why is I dreaded doing interviews. I had low energy, and I couldn't convert people because I really had nothing to sell. So what I wanted to take all that emotion and all that frustration and all that stress out of the process. And I wanted to make compensation make sense, and I wanted to increase customer service, and I wanted people's availability and production. So the Hire Fast Machine, when I created it, it's how I became a talent magnet. And I had this unique, fun, and engaging application process that ultimately reduced my recruiting and onboarding time by 75%. This tool directly ties to your compensation. It activates the candidates that flow to you, and we collect their personality and all their information, and we make informed decisions along the process. They schedule their own fit tests, which is the old interview. And we collect all the data we need, and then with one click of a button, we send them an offer letter. So this is what I was after. So remember, I was solving my own problems when I created these tools. So today, we're going to talk about the second step in the framework, which is motivate, right? Motivate is focusing on the culture and the environment inside the four walls of your business to deliver the promise that we make to our current team members and our new candidates. So I remember one day I was walking across the parking lot, and there was some trash on the ground. And there was an employee in front of me that was coming to work. And I watched them walk right by the trash and go in the door. And I said to myself, man, if I could get that person to pick that up without me being the catalyst, without me saying, hey, can you please pick that up? And then me having to follow up and make sure that they picked it up, without me having to do that, if I could get people to want to pick that trash up and throw it away, man, I'd be solving some massive, massive problems. Then I went over and picked the trash up and threw it away, right? So I read this book that really kind of tied it all together for me. It was called Win the Heart by Mark Miller. And it just validated everything I was thinking and everything that I was doing. So motivate, actually, so what motivate does is we answer the question, how do you get people to care? And we take the word care and we break it down into a framework. CARE stands for connection, affirmation, responsibility, and environment. And just like in Skillfully, goals, measures, and compensation plan, this product came out of it called the Hire Fast Machine. CARE, a product comes out of CARE. We're only going to talk about it for a second because we're going to talk about it much later in some other episodes. But a product called the Rockstar Journey, which is a Category 1 product, it will change the whole course of the business. But what I want to do is I want to unpack CARE a little bit more for you before we get into the framework and break down what each one of those things mean. So take the word CARE, right? And think of a building, right? And a building has 4 cornerstones in it that kind of hold it up, right? CARE is the basic parts to create this culture and environment that we're after, what we need to do to succeed. And what's interesting about the cornerstones in a building, if you take one out, the building falls over, right? You need all 4 of them to be in place. And that's what CARE is. If you have all 4 parts of CARE in place, then your culture and your environment is strong. You take one out, it starts to topple over, it starts to break down. So CARE is the activator of the S.M.A.R.T system. It literally is a foundational component that you need to have in place. So one of the questions I have to ask you is, what do you think your number one asset is in your business? Do you think it's your building? Do you think it's maybe your trucks? Do you think it's your equipment? What are your thoughts what is your number one asset in your business? The only real asset in your business is your people and your team. And the problem is that people, they're not machines, right? They're not things. So they don't respond like equipment. You can't turn them on and off, and we don't own them, right? And people work heavily off of emotion, right? Sometimes they feel like they work for you out of an obligation, that they have to be there because they have to pay their bills and they have to take care of their family. So they really don't work or come from a place of passion or purpose or the need to grow and expand. They're not us. They're not vested like we are. They don't think the same way. So I just want to throw a quick shout out to a friend of mine, Corwin Smith, who we've had some conversations over the last couple of weeks, and he dropped a message the other day that just really helped inspire me and kind of align with this episode. So I just want to say thank you, Corwin. Now, business owners, they'll invest in all these things, right? They'll invest in the buildings, they'll invest in the trucks and the equipment, but they rarely invest in people, right? So the number one place that leaders fail is by not investing in their people, right? And then they can't figure out why they're not getting the massive results that they're after. So I want to tell you this story. So I have this generator, and I had it in my shed. I have it in my shed. It's actually still there today. And the winter came, and it was a real mild winter. And it just kind of sat there in the shed. There were no power outages or anything like that, so I just kind of left it in the shed. And then the winter passed, and then we came into the spring, right? Then, you're busy doing stuff. Then we went into the summer. Then we went into the fall. Now here we are, we're a year later, and we're back into the winter again. And now we have one, like, to kick off the winter, we have one of these massive snowstorms, right? The wet, heavy ice that bends the tree branches down. You know what I'm talking about. You've seen these storms. We all live in New England, right? 63 one day, and then the next thing you know, it's a monsoon, right? It's a nor'easter. So what do you think happened? My wife calls me, right? She says, hey, you got to get home. The power went out. Some power lines got knocked down on the street because of the wet snow and the heavy ice. So I get home. I drag that generator out. I get it up on the porch. What do you think happened? Won't start, right? Because I didn't maintain it, right? I didn't do the work. I had a whole year to get it ready and be prepared for that moment. And what did I do? I did nothing. I ignored it, right? So the moment I needed it, the one time I needed that generator to work, I went to pull the chain and it didn't work. So I have this employee, or actually I still have her. Her name's Kat, and super good, super great employee. But what happened was she actually left me, right? I started focusing. She was doing such a good job that I started focusing on all this other stuff, right? And then she comes in my office one day and she says, Alan, I got to quit. I have another job. And I said to myself, man, in that moment I was feeling helpless, right? I felt irritated, pissed off. I felt like, she was doing something to me, right? But really what my problem was is I got comfortable, right? I took my eye off the ball and I lost sight of her being a person, and really I treated her like a thing. She continued to do her thing so I could go do this, and I feel I failed to realize that I needed to maintain her, right? I needed, in some aspects, to treat her like the equipment that I invest in. So all the equipment around my people, I'm investing in. I'm changing filters and doing all this stuff to keep it running right so I can make money. But then the people that are right in the middle, I'm not doing the same thing. So the principle here is take a look at your profit and loss statement last year. Where did you invest? Where did you spend your money? Was it on your team? So think about this. If you're not getting the things that you want from your team, then you're the problem, right? This is something that I came to realize, that I was the issue. And I think you're the problem and you don't even realize it. But there's good news, right? So don't take offense to that. But even if you're the problem, but the good news is that means you're the possibility, right? You're the solution. You're the one that can fix it. So here's really what it is, right? The only real asset that you have inside of your business is your people. So my question to you is, are you acting the way that I did, right? Do you have so much going on that you don't maintain your equipment or your people, right? You make comments like, I'm already paying people a ton of money. They should be doing what they're supposed to. I can't afford to invest more on top of them because I'm paying them top dollar, right? But you invest that money in your equipment, right? In real estate, in these other things. So are you going to invest in the only real asset that you have in your business, your people, who take care of your customers? Treat it like a capital expenditure, right? If you made a purchase, you're going to really lay it out and you're going to say, I'm going to spend this much money and I need this type of return on investment. Well, guess what? You do the same thing with your people. If you fully invest in your people, they're going to give you a return of investment by bringing in more sales, by taking care of your customers. So how do we get people to care? We have to change, right? We have to show up as leaders. So next week, before we dive into the CARE framework, I do want to talk to you about a concept that I call power versus force, and what engagement really means and why it matters so much. So thank you so much for listening today. Hire Fast is a component of the S.M.A.R.T system. The S.M.A.R.T system that I developed to solve my biggest problems. It's the fastest path for you to get predictable and sustainable profit in your restaurant. It's a true continuous improvement framework. Nothing like it exists. It's a triple threat. It attracts, develops, and retains better people and helps you maintain your staff to grow your business. So your business doesn't have to be a prison to you and you can live a better life. And remember that the leaders with the best employees will win every single time. So if you haven't already clicked subscribe or follow below, please do so. We can keep you up to date on how to hire fast. You can visit me at getsmartsystem.com. You can email me at alan@getsmartsystem.com. You can call me at 188-3SMART5. Ciao for now. I'll see you next week.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.